You're live. You're going live. You are live. Okay. I don't know how many international viewers are, blissfully unaware of American holidays, but this weekend that passed was Thanksgiving here, which means most people had roughly 4 days in a row off, or many. And at least one of those days was spent maybe putting up holiday decorations, especially in the front yard and that kind of thing. I didn't do that. I was organizing other things. I organized my shoes. I organized my sweaters. I organized my neckwear, mostly getting holiday themed things ready or out that I may not even use. Flannel shirts was already mostly done, but I got a bunch of January clothes already sorted in a pile because they were in bins and not all together as much as I would like. So now they're all more together. Excuse me. And maybe a little premature, but I took off the sheets and I put on the more festive flannel sheets. I'm going to do some housekeeping here before we get into the nitty gritty. So, bear with me. Like, for example, I have some things like this. This is like an extra long pillowcase. I did not buy this, probably not the 90s, but since then, but maybe 20 years ago, my mom started buying more cotton stuff than polyester finally. So I've been using up some of that, but this just exploded on me, so I had to scramble to find another sheet before I can get this mended. That kind of thing, but of course this being a late summer autumny color, not a holiday festive color anyway. So we can put this away until spring or whatever. And use something else. So I decided, okay, fine, I'll just change out the sheets, even though it's not really cold enough at night to need flannel sheets yet. We're on the verge, maybe the cusp, whatever. And the one thing, and I wasn't going to show the same stuff that I showed in the previous video, although it was sparse. I didn't. I did locate some of the other stuff that is kind of Ralph Lauren inspired. So if you watched that previous video, then I talked about some of these other tins that I have floating around, but I didn't know where they were, or I hadn't brought them in. So I'm showing these to get it over with. So like the poinsettias, and this being a really old one that had a fruit cake apparently at one time, but now ordinarily this kind of thing ends up with sewing supplies in it, but there's already a tin somewhere around here with sewing supplies in it. So that one is not full of sewing supplies. And of course, this one that used to hold cookies is now holding my trinkets for the display here. I haven't obviously done that yet. I decided I would run my mouth first before I lost my train of thought and forgot all the junk I wanted to talk about before I tackled any kind of thing, and I probably won't get to that yet this week. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. And I have found a whole bunch more of these. Oops. That I think look kind of like Christmas trees. I don't know why I'm seeming so disorganized today, but I still haven't gotten around to painting these and putting them on Etsy. Probably never will. Sounds like work, but I found some more good ones, and I found some nice green ones. And maybe I should do a whole video on just pine cones, because I didn't bring all of them in because they're mostly in the garage. But here's a couple. Here's this cute little baby one from last year. It kind of opened up a bit. When they open up, sometimes the seeds want to come out, and I've been saving the seeds in a glass jar for no reason at all. But the actual pine cones, when they open up too much, most of them I will just take to the park and discard or something. Like this one's kind of separating pretty bad since I got it. And I don't know if that's from the heat or dehydration, or if some of them were just going to do it anyway. But this one's being naughty, so he might not last in the collection. And this one is a little separation at the bottom. I don't know if that matters. Anyway, but none of this is really necessarily the point of this video, but the pine cones do tie in a bit more than some of the other more modern stuff, right? And of course, this was the guy I was talking about when. Yeah, see, stuff like this where it all gets inner. It all gets wrapped around each other. Okay. And little Cindy Lou, who is about to find this one. This guy was the one I was talking about when I was talking about stag horns and things. This is, you know, I don't have any full-scale real stag horns and stuff, but Easter egg from the previous film video. And of course, this was like chocolate cookies and snowflakes. If I can get the glare off the thing, there we go. It's a wraparound design. So that's my little set decoration box that has nothing to do with the rest of the house whatsoever. Excuse me. As for, I mean, literally, you know, it's just removing these two items for bottom right now because I didn't go whole hog overboard with the Halloween motif last month, or 2 months ago now, technically. Or anyway, so watching these other women's videos and finally getting to the more of the point. But hardly anybody watches these videos anyway, so I can kind of run my mouth a little bit and have fun. One day my decor videos might catch on instead of my boot videos. We'll see. But I do have upcoming videos. Might as well get that out of the way too about the Black Friday haul and the Cyber Monday, and some product comparisons. Not all flannel shirts, but a couple flannel shirts that I mentioned. Only one of them has arrived so far. So the Carhartt one came yesterday, but the other ones aren't here yet. And because some people might watch my flannel shirt videos, although my sweaters video not doing very well, I thought would do a bit more. And I do have one more sweater coming in. Spoiler, it might look similar to one you've seen. But the Black Friday haul, of course, being contradictory to my no-buy year videos. Like I said, I've been using up my parents' old bed sheets and things, you know. So I try to, be frugal when I can, even though this has nothing to do with the holidays. And so I don't know if I'll make another no-buy video anytime soon. I don't think it's necessary. People will figure it out. But, of course, if you go to my community menu, I'll have updates on that kind of thing if I actually do buy something significant or whatever. And, of course, showing photos of those products rather than trying to do look fit videos and that kind of thing. And so there is already an old photo somewhere in there of the flannel sheets from last year. If you scroll back far enough, you'll see those in a thumbnail from one of the videos and that photo. Festive, snowflakey looking red things. Okay. And of course, boots, always boots. I still have 2 pairs of boots supposedly on the way. One will probably get here sooner than the other one, even though I just bought them on Monday. We'll see how that goes. But since most of my viewers are boot video viewers, the few of you who are watching this maybe don't care about the boot videos at all. I don't know. So anyway, in the one video, she was kind of making a similar claim to the previous video about. In the previous video, she said that Ralph Lauren Christmas was really just Scottish Christmas. In this video, she was saying that the Little Women Christmas is basically an old English Christmas. Well, because Christmas decoration as we know it started around the same time in the Victorian era. And then she asked about the film's Little Women. So, of course, I went off that tangent instead. So the 90s version, she said, was her favorite. Well, that had the more modern look, although the cinematography in the newest one was maybe the most breathtaking for a longer, more dull, depressing telling. I think I did a video on Little Women already in my practical movies. Depressing telling overall. Depressing telling. This should really be a second sentence. Oh, I can't read my own typing. Overall, the Elizabeth Taylor version was actually the best overall, is that even spelled right? For someone what's never read the book, except they may have swapped the ages of Beth and the other gal, the two younger ones. I don't remember. And the Elizabeth Taylor one kind of followed along the Katharine Hepburn one in terms of the script, but the acting was maybe a little more solid. The filming was a little more updated, whatever. I don't remember. I did pretty much watch all three of those in some marathon in prep for when the fourth one came out in the cinema, which I saw, almost alone in the theater with one teenage-ish gal. She might have been in college. I don't remember. And her mom. I didn't know them, just approximating. But I really had to go to the bathroom for at least half an hour waiting for a good time. That it seemed like I could make it across the hall and back without missing anything important. And it was slightly structured different than the other movies, so that was a little harder to time because, like I said, the earlier two were a little more formulaic. The third one was a little more filmed outdoors and not just on a set, so it had more of a live action-y, modern-y feel. But I watched that on TV, so it wasn't really an issue. That one I was more focused on the exteriors again, same as the Winona Ryder one, I guess. Which was diminished in the first two because it was, like I said, the old studio style, where it's a set. When you watch it now, it doesn't look realistic, like a house, to draw inspiration for decoration from much. Excuse me. And of course, that one had Trini Alvarado, Winona Ryder, Claire Danes, and Samantha Mathis. The new one had Saoirse Ronan and Emily Watson from the Harry Potter, and I don't know the names of the other two gals. And I think she mentioned, was the BBC one worth watching? I think I saw one scene of that version last month, but they kind of stacked the placement of that on the, at the same time as some other shows that I probably watched instead. There was a similar 90s It Gal movie, the Costner one with the four sisters, that was not Little Women, but kind of maybe sort of based on the idea, where Felicity, Carrie Russell, was the ballerina, and I couldn't remember Evan Rachel Wood's name at the time, but yeah. So I said, what's her name, as sort of the Joe character with the sailor hat. It was more the early 2000s, though, than the 90s. So I don't know if it was quite 10 years after the Winona Ryder Little Women, don't quote me, or the Claire Danes Little Women, I guess I could say, or even the Samantha Mathis one, since she was very briefly an It Girl, though. She was only in like a couple movies that really everybody kind of saw, even though she was around for a while. I mean, if they had made this movie a few years earlier, it would have been Rachel McAdams and Lindsay Lohan, and they already did that. It was called Mean Girls, or almost right. But anyway, it was called Upside of Anger, and it was more focused on Costner's relationship with the bitter mom whose husband has vanished. Instead of going off to the Civil War, she says he ran off with the secretary and starts up an affair with the ex-baseball player next door, etc. Another one I saw in the theater with only one guy 2 or 3 rows up. But that one had Alicia Witt and Erica Christensen, and again, like Carrie Russell and Evan Rachel Wood, whose name I was brain farting because she had kind of a boy's name. And I was thinking Ralph for some reason. And I didn't have to look it up. I actually remembered it as soon as I stopped typing or whatever. She, for those of you who don't remember, was the blonde from that movie 13. So that's not significant at all for Christmas. But anyway, she was talking about how Christmas trees have been a thing since, again, Queen Victoria and this and this and this, and how they've changed in the modern times since the whatever times. But of course, I always harken back to Get an aluminum tree and paint it pink is still sound advice from 1965. That's still relevant. And no, I did not buy the Charlie Brown Snoopy, rather tin box yet. And then I said have a holly jolly. So I didn't really go into too many details of her video blow by blow here like I did last time, because a lot of the advice is kind of similar to the Ralph Lauren advice, which she kind of mentions, but some of it is more old-timey or whatever, like, again, natural elements. Like, I keep wanting to say acorns instead of pine cones for some reason. The popcorn garlands was one of the things mentioned, because in previous they had mentioned, again, the making garlands out of dried fruit, which sounds like a real challenge to someone lazy like me, who likes store-bought tinsels and things. The popcorn garlands likely take hours to make, though. I mean, now you can buy a huge, not like the 1800s, you can buy a huge bag of pre-popped popcorn at Costco or Smart and Final or something, and all that. But then you still got to run all the thread with the needle for authenticity to make that into an actual garland that, I don't know, if a squirrel gets in your house, it might eat it. I don't know. And then there was a different gal who was decorating on the same day, and kind of, she wasn't really doing a how-to video as much, but kind of copying the same style. I don't know if they all copy each other for these videos, but I felt like some of her elements were the exact same elements. So I don't know if that was intentional or just a funny coincidence. If they're all trying to push, some products on us, but again, acorns and pine cones and popcorn isn't something that you buy typically, although again, you'd have to buy the popcorn to pop it if you were going to do the Jiffy Pop route, but not a terribly high expense compared to other types of ornaments that, mass marketing might be trying to sell. So in this one, she did a little Grinch face thing at the beginning. I think you were expecting me to say more about the Grinch face or some other aspect by now, but I literally watched a bunch of that video. Not commenting or having much to say because I was actually kind of zoning out and wanted to take a nap by the time I was watching it. Being dizzy on ladders is a thing. That's true. Incense smells gross. That's also true. Makes me sneeze. I had friends who were hippies that like to burn incense in their cars and crap, and it just always annoyed my sinuses. The actual jingle bells would be the round ones. I think, her and another woman, I think both got these brass bells at Hobby Lobby or someplace, and they were calling them jingle bells. The actual jingle bells would be the little round ones with, and they're contained on with the hole. The jingly part is contained inside the bell, with holes for the sound to come out, and they go on. Those are the sleigh bells ringing, ride merrily, carol along thing that are typically mounted on a piece of felt or a leather strap or something. So they go on horses and make noise with the movement and motion of the horse, not just when you open or close a door or bang into them. And they are typically more like silver than brass a bit too, although I suppose you could find brass ones. 'Tis what the time in the city, ring-a-ling and all, are you listening and all that? Okay, blah, blah, blah. I have been avoiding going into the other topic tangents aplenty when stray from the decor advice focus. So here she went off on a couples therapy rant, tangent, whatever, that I don't know if couples therapy would have really helped her previous toxic situation that she described. But I also live in California, so the women here mostly make her look relatively sane or at least entertaining when having a nervous breakdown about some felt garland bits and bobs or whatever. I totally should just skip saying more and try to finish watching the video before a nap. 10 more minutes. Focus. Yes. Okay. So obviously I wasn't offering any useful advice here, just trying to be funny because the first part I forgot to read before I said the bit about expecting me to say more about the Grinch face. I feel like there was a much faster way to wrap the lights around the mantle garland already, since it has a hanging loop thing that you could clearly see. kind of like a plumber's, what do you call the snake thing with I mean, it would literally, I'm not sure that was meant to be a tinsel garden or a roto-rooter implement for your drain clog. Have at it. I didn't say that, but tool. See, I lost my train of thought here. I lost my place. Wraps around the mantle garland since it already has a hanging loop thing. Much as this segment was more about dating advice than the cat attacking the light string or the stockings much. Right. So that was me making a joke after, she did some crap with her cat and the cat kept coming back into the scene. So I'm just rebuttaling or what do you call it? There's a reaction video. Yes, more than an actual video. But there might still be some nuggets of useful information in here if we're lucky. Because like I said, again, you might want to watch my previous video more than this one. I didn't realize this was 20 minutes already, but that's how it goes. I think some people manipulate the dynamic in a relationship, or at least could in a therapy session. I've never been to couples therapy, so I won't go into that too much, but reality TV and the 90-day finale, I'm never watching that crap again. But we just had the wrap-up episode on Sunday. But they were doing couples therapy, and it seemed like maybe it's because of who the TV producers hired, that they broke up most of the couples. They were not really authentic therapists, in my opinion. Sometimes I edit out bits like this when I'm see, well, anyway, but I probably won't. I'm lazy and nobody's going to watch this far anyway. Actual personal stuff could mention that may or may not be applicable, ho-hum, to her situation. I decided not to go there. Although it wasn't necessarily bad stuff. Just no reason to talk about personal stuff much on somebody else's decor video. Maybe she had string along people in the past, was my assertion or question that has not been answered. Again, where I don't know that couples therapy would really help you with that if you're not really in a relationship with the person and you just think you are. I know there's lots of nice wedding venues near or likely in DC because I've watched them on Bailin' Out Loud. But the most I could likely afford is play Frisbee in Tuckahoe Park. Har, har, har. Coyotes can jump like 9 or a dozen feet, actually more like 15. And land sideways on a block wall is a thing. Not quite from the street, maybe. Possibly the curb or the sidewalk, which I have seen in real life. But I don't know how many coyotes they have in that area. Probably none, because it's a city. So yeah, that's kind of my 2 rebuttals of, like I said, not really much in the way of me just commenting on their decor ideas. But again, their decor ideas largely coming from other people's style videos or old magazines or something anyway, or catalogs, I should say. Oops. So that being kind of a thing that I don't do on this channel much, I'm lazy. And I don't know the names of all the old designers. They're always talking about William Morris and Ralph Lauren. They're always talking about the same 3, so you'll figure it out, I guess. Whereas Christmas at my house, as I spoke of, I think, in the earlier video, or last year's video maybe, was a bit more of, 70s plastic junk or whatever that I'm glad we don't have anymore anyway. Some of that stuff you could maybe find in thrift stores that's been sitting there collecting dust for ages, or antique stores. Some antique stores might have a sliding scale of actual taste where 70s, 80s stuff might have made it into the roster now. But I would assume most of that stuff just went to landfills over the years. But so, yeah, if I wanted to search for my childhood Christmas stuff, I think I would not find very much that really, I think I talked about this in the previous video, that really jibes with exactly what it was growing up. But I remember one year when we switched from the real trees, because they were kind of a nuisance, to the artificial tree. We thought the artificial tree was great at first, and then after a couple of years, it was like, this doesn't even look like a tree. What are we doing with this ugly thing? And had to switch back to the real tree at my sister's insistence and that kind of thing. So it kind of depends. But then the artificial trees that come out now do look like trees, or some of them, if you're willing to spend the extra, and with less mess. But then you have to store it, right, for a whole year instead of just, well, back in those days, what was a Christmas tree was, maybe 20 or 30 bucks. Now they're, I don't know, 600. Who knows? I don't. I'm definitely not getting a full size Christmas tree this year. Even if I wanted one, which, unless you have a bunch of children running around, you don't typically need a full tree because you don't have the same kind of demand for a fun family activity coupled with a place to put all the presents, blah, blah, blah. Someone was saying that for the Christmas presents, I know this isn't really decor, but like there was 4 things you were supposed to give them, like something they could wear, which most people don't want for Christmas, but kind of end up with a Christmas. Like I had a friend whose birthday was like a week before Christmas. So like it was, his birthday gifts really sucked so that he could still get better ones for Christmas. Cause his birthday, he would get the pair of jeans and the sweatshirt or whatever. Here's your underwear, son. Happy birthday, Whereas my birthday is, not near Christmas, so I always felt like I got good gifts both times a year. And he and I were the two that we pretty much always exchanged some gift for Christmas and our birthday, even though most of my other friends was, not going to have any extra money or any interest in buying you something. So for, mostly in high school, it was just cassette tapes. We'd go to the record store together. And I'd say, oh, pick out one you like, and I'd buy it for him, and then, do that. And so we just gave each other a couple of cassettes. And a lot of times we'd end up with the exact same tape. Oh, you like that one too? Well, okay, let's go both just get that one. It was almost like buying the tape at that point. but the official ceremony of the exchange still had to occur, Kind of stupid. But so yeah, something fun, something you wear, whatever the 4 things was. I didn't write it down. Because again, that's more household maintenance if you have children. If you're buying for somebody else's kid, you're only getting them something practical that they don't really want or something fun. There's not really any in between. One of them was something to read. I don't know how much kids read, but I think most kids would see a book as almost the same thing as a sweatshirt or something nowadays. I don't know. But I still think if they're young enough, the books are shiny and colorful and have lots of pictures, and that might be a little more appreciated than War and Peace or even Little Women to tie this back. But I guess you could give Little Women as a gift, and maybe they'd like it. I don't know. I haven't read it. What do I have written down here that might be useful? I forgot to mention my tweed head-to-head video. For those of you who liked wool clothes, I'm talking extra long now. I don't know how long this is, but I'm almost done. So group therapy. Oh, that's different than the other thing. Oh, haul. Yes, the haul. I already mentioned the haul. I don't know if I'll do multiple haul videos or not. The one woman does mostly vintage and Hobbit clothing stuff. I was going to talk. This is not related to this video, but I'll go into it anyway. Yes, since you might be the one person who cares. There was a lot of videos in this isn't decor, it's wardrobe, but I'm just going to mention it now before I forget. One of the videos that came out in the pandemic was people doing kind of gimmicks like, I'm going to dress a certain way for a week, or I'm going to dress this way each. And so one of the ones did, not quite, I mean, for me, it would be Americana theme, I think, would be the only way to kind of do it, like whatever this means. Flannel shirts, I don't know, I guess, instead of wool, maybe some wool suits. But she was doing 1910 one day, 1920 the next day, 1930, 1940, 1950, all the way through 1970 in 1 week. And so, of course, it was really crammed, and I felt like some of those decades were really underrepresented. So I think it would be better if you did a different look or a different decade look each week for multiple weeks, whether you'd want to do that for, 6 or 7 weeks, as opposed to 6 or 7 days. It might be a little more difficult to pull together all of those outfits for all those decades. You could maybe, like, I don't know what's the real difference between 1930 and 1940-ish that you couldn't do both of those in the same week. Whereas 1920 is a little more specific, but for men, it would be a lot more redundant, right? For women, it's a little more playground. Men, 1940, I mean, you could have military, for a couple days or whatever, instead of just civilian clothes. But then you'd look like you're mostly in costume going out, But so a lot of her stuff is vintage and hobbity, and some of these creators like make their own clothes, but I don't see any women out and about who really dress like that much. It's mostly jeans and hoodies, same as the guys at this point. And then one of the things she made was a reversible thing, and men's clothes don't really come in reversible much, so you couldn't use the same piece twice in a week and have it look like a different piece. It would look like the same piece. Anyway, that was the one thing I wrote down there. And then I was compiling my boots for the other video for later this week. 9 clothes to declutter. Rebuttal. Oh, that was a video that's full of contradictions. Like I said, instead of doing a no-buy video, I might do a video about that. But then, of course, my tweed, the more priority, I think. And what do we have here? Oh, related to the rebuttal video. Yeah, there was a bit about shopaholics and addictions and stuff like that, but trying to make men out to be the ones who consume more of this than that, and women being the ones who recycle and this and that. So yeah, stay tuned for that video if I get around to it this week or next week. I don't know yet. We'll see. Okay, I'm going to sign off now, and because this went on definitely more than long enough for what was actually accomplished.